Howdy guys, I hope y'all are doing well. Today we're going to do a study in Luke 8. I was asked to redo this video from a video I had made years ago because the sound quality was really bad. Hopefully this one will be better, but the wind's kind of blowing, so bear with me. But I want to add on to that video out of further study. There's some more things I wanted to touch on with this one. So before we get to Luke 8, I want to read just one verse. We'll just read one verse out of Ephesians for time, and we're going to read Ephesians chapter 2, verse 17 and 18. And he came and preached peace to you who were far away, and peace to those who were near. For through him we have access to one Spirit and to the Father. Okay, now this is talking about Christ. He came and he preached to you who were far away, the Gentiles, and to those that are near, the Jews. Okay? Now we know that Jesus' main thrust of his ministry was to the Jews, to the Jewish people, because he is the Jewish Messiah. Okay? They were the ones that were elected by God to be the lighthouse to the whole rest of the world, to bring God's light to others. And so he came unto his own, but his own did not receive him, as we read in John. Now we're going to look at where it says he preached to those who were far away. That means Gentiles. I mean, where does this happen? Where do we see this in the Gospels? Well, we're going to see this in Luke 8. We're going to see an interesting scenario here. Now let's go to Luke 8. We're going to start in verse 26. Okay? And they sailed to the country of the Gadarenes, that's probably the right word, Gadarenes, which is across from Galilee. And when he stepped out of the land, well, before I even go further, okay, this location is important, the land of the Gadarenes, okay? It is a region that is called the Decapolis, the 10 cities, okay? And it says the country of the Gadarenes, okay? That means that the people there were called Gadarenes, but it isn't the name of the town or the city that he went to, okay? This is important, but it is a thoroughly pagan area, a very pagan area in Galilee. Now we're going to see how pagan this, or Gentile this really is as we continue with this story. But the people in this area worship idols, they worship demons, they worship all these things that were wrong and evil, okay? And which makes this story so important as we progress of the actions Jesus is taking and the things he does in this narrative. Okay, so verse 27, and he stepped out on the land, a man from the city who had demons for a long time met him. He wore no clothes, nor did he live in a house, but in the tombs. So Jesus lands, and right when he lands, the boat, he gets off the boat, he's immediately met by this man, this naked man, who has been possessed probably for years. He has absolutely nothing. No house, no clothes, not even himself. For all intents and purposes, he is a walking dead man. He's literally living in the tombs. Okay? Anybody else and all those that are in this city with him, let me wait for this truck to go by. Gotta love it when it's sweet potato season. They're going to be going up and down this highway all day. But anyways, back to what I was saying. For all intents and purposes, this was a dead man walking, living among the tombs. His own brethren, no one he was a lost cause. Nobody had any hope for this man. They had given up. Now let's continue in verse 28. When he saw Jesus, he cried out and fell down before him, and with a loud voice said, "What have you to do with me, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? I plead with you, do not torment me." Now even the demons recognized who Jesus is, something his own countrymen didn't. So notice that it pleads with Jesus not to torture him. What is he talking about? If we go to Matthew 8:27, we can get a little bit fuller of a view on this. Matthew 8:27. 8:27 or 37? It might be 37. It was 8:29. I apologize. Okay, suddenly they cried out, saying, "What have we to do with you, Jesus, Son of God? Have you come here to torment us before the time?" Now, what does this mean? Matthew gives this detail that they feared torment before the time. So even the demons know that one day judgment will come and that they will be judged and that they will be thrown into the lake of fire. As we'll jump to Revelation 20:10 and we'll see that. Revelation 20:10. The devil who deceived them was cast into the lake of fire and brimstone, where the beast and the false prophet were. They will be tormented day and night forever. So this demon was begging not to be sent to the lake of fire yet. He knew judgment was coming for him. Okay? Now let's go back to Luke. We're in verse 29. For he had commanded the unclean spirit to come out of the man. It often had seized him, and he was kept under guard, bound with chains and shackles. But he broke the shackles and was driven by the demon into the wilderness. Now just imagine the state of this man. This man was in such a wretched state. His life was quite literally a living hell. He had no hope. His own people had chained him up in a graveyard with the dead. That's how hopeless this man's situation was. He was nearly a dead man walking, constantly. Just imagine having to live as he lived, in terror of having to watch himself do these horrible things. He was lost and he was forsaken by his own people, forced by those very people who worshiped those evil demonic idols to be chained for their fear of what those demons would do to them. Now let's go to Mark 5:5. Flip to it. And Mark 5:5. Always night and day he was in the mountains and in the tombs, crying out and cutting himself with stones. So it wasn't just that he was possessed and running around being crazy. He was literally cutting himself, doing bodily harm. Demons were doing all they could to mar the image of God within this man. He was driven into the wilderness, into isolation, another place that demons long and hope to get good people into, is that they want you to feel isolated. They want you to feel alone, like there's no hope. That's the only way they can have power over you, is to make you think that there is no hope, that nobody loves you, nobody can save you, but there is somebody that can save. And that man is just about to save this one. Now let's go back to Luke, verse 30 through 31. Okay. And Jesus asked him, "What is your name?" He said, "Legion," because many demons had entered into him. So, and they begged him not to command them to go into the abyss. So this place was so thoroughly pagan. Now this could be why there were so many demons within him. And it shows you that it's a Gentile area because he uses the term legion, which is a Roman term, a Roman military term, which is 6,000. 6,000 demons have went into this poor man. Now, there's a bunch of daggone interruptions. I apologize, guys. But notice that it begs him not to send them into the abyss. Now, what is the abyss? The abyss is different than the lake of fire. Okay? The abyss is different than the lake of fire. And sometimes the word hell in the King James is used for abyss, because hell actually ends up being thrown into the lake of fire at the end in Revelation as well. So let's go to 2 Peter 2:4 to see what this is speaking about. 2 Peter 2:4. For if God did not spare the angels that sinned, but cast them down to hell, the word here is Tartarus, or abyss, and delivered them into chains of darkness to be kept for what? The judgment. and if he did not spare the ancient world but saved Noah. So this was talking about the unrighteous angels during the days of Noah, the demons during that time. And notice where they are kept, in the abyss under chains. Okay? The abyss is like a prison, a holding area, until the judgment comes. And you can read, and let's see if I wrote it down, Revelation 9, 1 through 3, the one time that the abyss will be open, just before the judgment. I'll put it up on the screen for you. So let's go back to Luke 32 through 33. There was a large herd of swine feeding on the mountain. They begged him to permit them to enter them, and he permitted them. Then the demons went out of the man and entered the swine, and the herd ran violently down the steep bank into the lake and was drowned. So they begged Jesus to not send them into the abyss to await the judgment, but to enter this swine, these pigs that were feeding along the hillside. Now, this is another sign that this is a thoroughly Gentile area, because Jews would have nothing to do with pork. They couldn't even come near them, touch them, nothing. So this is a very, very Gentile area. And it's interesting that of all the places Jesus came to save somebody, he came to the most unclean place probably in all of Galilee to save this man. Now, a question that I've kind of wondered back in the past is, why would Jesus not just send them to the abyss? Why would he permit them to go into the herd of swine? Now, I think it has to do with the area he's living in. Because you got to remember, it's a thoroughly pagan place. And these people are literally worshiping these idols and these demons in this area. So Jesus is allowing them to go into this herd of swine and letting them run off the cliff into death. It is like almost like a warning to the people living there. Because this is where this practice that y'all are doing will take you. Remember, these demons were marring the image of God in this man. It was trying to destroy this man. If these people continued to dabble in this evil, idolatrous way, that was going to be their destination. It was a warning, so they could see the end of the road if they did not repent of their ways. Okay, so back to Luke 34:35. When those who fed them saw what had happened, they fled and reported it in the city and in the country. Then they went out to see what had happened, and came to Jesus, and found the man from whom the demons had departed sitting at the feet of Jesus, clothed and in his right mind, and they were afraid. So this man, who had literally no hope, none, suddenly is found by the townspeople who come to investigate what had happened to the hogs. And look what they find. The crazy man that they themselves chained up because they knew that they thought there was no hope for this guy. A maniac. Forsaken. And yet, where's he at? He's at the feet of Jesus, who came across the sea to the worst area in probably all of Israel to set him free, to give him life and new meaning and hope. Only Jesus was able to do this. And they were afraid. They were terrified because literally all their idolatrous ways and the things that they could have tried to do to help this man, or maybe even they brought it on this man, we don't know. But Jesus, this Jewish rabbi, arrived and drove them all out. Jesus has all the authority, and they are terrified of this man. Now let's continue in verse 36. Those who had seen it told them how he who had been possessed by demons was healed. Then the whole crowd from the surrounding country of the Gadarenes asked him to depart from them, for they were seized with great fear. So he went into the boat and returned. Let me continue. Now the man from whom the demons had departed asked him if he could stay with them. But Jesus sent him away, saying, "Return to your own house, and tell what great things God has done for you." What happened? So he went his way and proclaimed throughout the whole city what great things Jesus had done for him. So this man, the whole crowd is terrified. They beg Jesus to leave because they're terrified of this man who has all the authority to command even the 6,000 demons to drive them out. Jesus has all the authority and they're terrified. This man who has just been saved begs to come with Jesus. He knows what he wants. He wants to be with that one who set him free. We should all beg to be with Christ. That's where we belong, is with Christ. But here's the thing. Why didn't Christ let him come? Why didn't Christ let him get in the boat with him? If Jesus wanted to draw a crowd, this would be a pretty good way. You remember the crazy guy that was cutting himself and was naked in the tombs? Look at him now. He's healed. But Jesus wasn't talking, it wasn't about gathering crowds. It was about something else. He tells him to go throughout the city and proclaim what God has done for him. And what does he do? He proclaims what Jesus had done for him. I hope you see how important that detail is. And to understand that this man, this Gentile, who literally was in a tomb naked with no hope on earth, none. This echoes what Paul says, lost, without hope, beyond any of the covenantal promises. Jesus came to him, the most hopeless of conditions, to save him. And guess what he made him? He made him a missionary unto those Gentiles. He made him a missionary to go out and proclaim what God has done, what Jesus has done. Now, how do we know that this is the case? Now let's go to Matthew 14. Now this area, which all scholars pretty much agree is also the same area as Gennesaret. Now, it's the land of the Garden. I'm so bad at pronouncing that name. Please forgive me if I'm messing it up. But it's the land of that sect of people. That's the people that live there. But the place itself is called the Decapolis or Gennesaret. Now we're going to go to Matthew 14, verse 34 through 36. And when they had crossed over, they came to the land of Gennesaret. So that Jesus returns later. He doesn't just leave there and never return. He comes back again. And when the men of the place recognized him, they sent word to all the surrounding country and brought to him all who were sick and begged him that they might only touch the hem of his garment. As many as touched it were perfectly well. So suddenly, after Jesus returns, the fear is gone. They are ecstatic to see this man because they have just realized that Jesus is the Savior. Jesus has come to save them. There's hope in this man. There's life in this man. And no amount of demons or darkness can overcome it. So, this is one of my favorite stories because it just shows how Jesus can take somebody that's just so lost and beat and hopeless and save them and to turn them into something that can proclaim the glory of God and to save others. So much so that they were calling out to the whole country to come visit him, to come see Jesus, and begging him to stay and to heal them. You see how the mindset had totally reversed. But I hope that this was edifying. I hope that this video turns out better. We had a bunch of daggone cars go by right in the middle of this. But I hope the sound quality was better. And I want to make another video very soon, if not today or tomorrow, about spiritual discernment. But thank you guys so much for listening. I hope it was a blessing, and I'll catch y'all next time. God bless.